of those today. So what do we have? Guess what? We have another speaker, Daryl Keezer, and he told me that all I had to do was to introduce him was say his name right. So hopefully I did that. But we've had him before on one of our road shows, and we knew we had to have him on this series sooner rather than later. Daryl is the founder of Candy Box Marketing, a renowned digital agency, and he's proven time and time again that he can catapult any business to new levels of success. He's been named Entrepreneur of the Year by 2 organizations. His agency is listed at 188 on this year's Growth 500, so one of Canada's fastest growing companies. And frankly, he's also an author, and I have bought and read his book. It's a great book. We'll give you the link later. And well, basically, I'm really excited about this one, so I don't want to steal any more of your time, Daryl. So why don't you come on and start up?
Perfect. Wonderful. Thanks so much for having me, Sean. Really excited to be presenting today. And the topic I'm going to be talking about is becoming digitally disruptive. Now, we've been actually talking about digital disruption for a couple of years now. And it's interesting. There's been a lot of different businesses at different points over the years of saying, well, yeah, we should do this, and we're planning on doing this, or here's how we're integrating. But a lot of us experience this disruption ourselves this year. And we've either got a choice. We've either got to embrace it and move forward with a new way of doing business, or we're sitting waiting and falling behind. I'm CEO of a company called Candy Box. Now, nothing today I'm going to be selling you. I'm showing you real stuff that is actually working out in the marketplace today. As a digital marketer, we are entirely focused on taking $1 and investing it and seeing how we can get 20. If there's no return on investment, we are not interested in it. So there's a lot of different options with digital marketing. I'm certainly not going to be talking about every single avenue, every single widget, app, or network here today. But what I want to talk about is if I were working like in a business like you, if I were selling products like you, what would I do to leapfrog my competition? And so I want to talk about how you could become digitally disruptive today. But because I'm leading a company called Candy Box Marketing, I always love starting off with this one poll question. So keep your eyes peeled on Zoom during this presentation, as I'm going to be asking a couple poll questions here. And my question is, specifically, on the next slide here, what is your favorite type of candy? What is your favorite type of candy? So we've got chocolate, we've got gummies, and we've got anything. So like you're just good with whatever. If it's chocolate, if it's gummies, that's fine. You're just good with it. All right. So if you don't see the poll, just make sure you're in your Zoom window. You're not opening up your emails or doing different things or checking the election status. This poll right here is going to be exactly what the elections south of the border should be. Really fast, effective, and counting every single vote. Right. So right now, take a look, put in your votes, chocolates, gummies, or anything. And what do we got here? What are the results? Wow, chocolate, 71%. Poor gummies, 15%. Wow, that's not so good. Now we got 14% being okay with everything. So we're getting 29% accepting the gummy area, but we've got a lot of strong chocolate lovers here, which is fantastic. That is my personal fave. If I do not have chocolate in the evening, it is not a good evening whatsoever. So in regards to the presentation here today, my name is Daryl Keezer, CEO of Candy Box. My handle is at Darrell K, DARRELLK. And during this Avari Presents, I wanted to start off with a little bit of a story. Last year in November, I was speaking at a lot of different keynotes, and everybody was talking about, okay, what's going to be the next 10 years, right? What is going to happen in 2020? And this is a picture of me in November 2019 BC, so it's before COVID. And we were talking about all the different strategies and tactics that companies were going to be using in this next year to get ahead of their competition. And we had plans, and we had marketing funnels, and we had all these things set up. And I would equate this year with this wonderful quote by Mike Tyson, where it's everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And then all of a sudden your plans just kind of get blown away. You're not really sure what to do. And that punch in the face came in March, but sometimes you just feel like this guy is still on you. And it's been a very challenging year. And as a digital marketer, as a business owner, we realized that people are either in three places. Either they were ready for the digital change and they were winning. They weren't ready for the change and they're still losing, or they are deciding to change right now. And although it's difficult, it's happening. And so we're seeing this wonderful 2020 pivot. And before, as we talked about digital disruption, it was an option. Now it's like, okay, it's here and it's here to stay. Now, in regards to when I use the word disruption, sometimes we can actually have negative connotations to that word, and that's because definition. I actually don't like definition unless I can just agree to disagree with the dictionary. Because if we take a look at the definition of market disruption, it says a situation where markets cease to function in a regular manner, typically characterized by rapid and large market declines. And so nobody would disagree that this year has been one of disruption. We've seen large and rapid market declines. And I like to kind of use a story of Blockbuster to illustrate this, because we can always learn from the past, right? We can learn from businesses that didn't take a look at the times. And Blockbuster had a very interesting model. In the year 2000, Blockbuster was the number one DVD rental business, movie rental business in North America. And their business model was pretty simple. Friday night, if you guys remember this, you drive to the video store. You would walk into the video store. I would call my wife at home. I would walk through the video store. I would list every single title that is on the shelf. She would try to pick the bad movies. I would try to pick all the awesome movies. And, we'd have a little bit of an argument, and be like, well, why, I am reading all the titles. Of course I'm reading all the titles that you like. It's just that, some of these movies are terrible. And then eventually you decide to get a movie that neither of you like. You go home and you watch half of it. You turn it off because it's awful. And then 2 weeks later, you start getting, binged on your credit card because you completely forgot to return the movie. So you kind of return it on your way to work 2 weeks later, and you've now paid like $28 for that half movie that was just, absolutely awful. Now that's their business model. And in the year 2000, this little company called Netflix came out. Now, if you're like an OG Netflix user, you'll remember what I'm talking about, what I'm saying, that Netflix never used to have a website. It never had an app. You actually went onto Netflix and you would order a DVD to your house, and you would subscribe to this service where you can get different DVDs and you would return them. And so you literally got movies via Canada Post. This is a true story. If there's kids out there, like, this is true. Like, we got Netflix by mail. And so they came along to Blockbuster and they said, you know what? We're not the experts in movie distribution. You've got the customers, you've got the attention of, the database here. You've got the networks, you've got the distribution channels, you've got the executive teams. You have everything you need to launch our business and help it grow. Why don't you buy us for $50 million? Well, guess what Blockbuster said? No. They were a $4.4 billion business. They're not going to bow down and buy a $50 million business. It was actually seen not as a competitor, but as something so small that it wasn't like important on their radar. A year later, Netflix came back and they said, listen, we started this website and we're streaming videos online. And even though our selection is terrible, like just awful, especially in Canada, like we had the worst Netflix in the world, people are signing up in droves. Do you want to buy us for $50 million? Guess what Blockbuster said? No, we're gonna bring popcorn machines back into our stores. So like, you imagine that 2020, like shoving your hand and grabbing some popcorn and shoving it in your mouth and picking up DVDs. Like, just, that was their idea, A year later, Netflix came back, they said, listen, we're growing 25% quarter over quarter. We are going to go big or go home. Like, we've got to do this. We're either going to get investors or you should buy us. And we think that your business should pivot and adapt to the fact that people don't like driving to video stores anymore. Blockbuster decided to launch a campaign getting rid of late fees, which wasn't really getting rid of late fees. It was just really making a 2-day rental into a 5-day rental. And then they would charge you even more at the end. My MasterCard statement proves that statement. And so finally, by the year 2010, Blockbuster went bankrupt. Okay, they were a $4.4 billion company, gone. That is the market decline. But what we're not talking about is what happened with Netflix. And so Netflix, like as of today in 2020, guess how much Netflix is worth? Now think about it. Blockbuster was $4.4 billion and Netflix replaced Blockbuster. Netflix today is worth $220 billion. If you do the math, It's just a lot of math. 220 versus 4.4. And that's why I like to change the word market disruption, where I define market disruption where new business models, new delivery experiences experience rapid growth by replacing old models. It's not about your products. It's not about your term policies or ULs. Those things are going to remain the same for years and years to come, with differences and different questions and different stuff. But the delivery method of your business model has changed overnight. We don't have those paper forms anymore. We may love the paper forms. I'm so sorry, it's not coming back, right? Everything has changed. Our customers have changed. And if we take a look at 2020 and thinking about all the things that we lost, guys, we lost a lot of things. We lost the ability to go to conferences, face-to-face, breakfasts, trade shows, parties, sporting events, fundraisers, network meetings. I thought of just one more. Remember going over to your friend's house? Classic. That was nice. All right. And so we've seen all these things go down, and we, as business owners and salespeople, depended on all these things to kind of create this network. We have to understand that everything has changed, but has our business model changed? Has the way that we have delivered the product changed? Netflix did not create movies. Now they do, but they didn't create movies originally. They didn't produce them. They didn't do any of that stuff. All they did was deliver them in a different method, as opposed to driving somewhere on a cold Friday night and having a rain check for a movie that wasn't there. So your customers may have been looking through your catalogs last year looking like this, but you know what, when somebody's signing up for a UL policy this year, they look like this, all right? And so we need to really think about, okay, if the game has changed, if the playing field is completely different, if all the rules are different, what are we gonna do? Now, sometimes there are some people that are, what's called laggards, right? It's kind of like the last people to adopt new delivery methods. And I'm going to be talking about how we can improve this this day. I'm going to give you some real cool tips on how I've built my business digitally and how we've helped tons of other companies grow. But you know what? If you're still really hoping that 2019 returns to normal, if you don't have one of these, then you're not really going to get there. All right. So we really have to plan for the future. Now, I want to give a little bit of my background and my story because people, see your company and where you're at today, and they just think that it's just it just happened to you overnight. Well, it didn't. In 2008, I was laid off during the last recession. We thought that was bad, by the way. And I was laid off. I had 2 kids, and I decided to start an agency. And here was my first office. This was 2008. This was my digital business. And here we are 12 years later. Candy Box Marketing is one of the fastest growing companies 3 years in a row. And I want to show you today the things that I have used, not just concepts, programs, software, anything like that. I want to show you stuff that I have used to grow my business. While we won this last 2020 award, I was being interviewed by the Globe and Mail, and they said, "How have you grown this fast?" And I felt it was almost a stupid question because it's almost like seeing a runner at the end of a race and being like, how did you get here this fast? They don't ask that. They saw the race, right? They saw what just happened. And the reality is just I'm no smarter. I just tried to work harder, work faster. And I'm going to show you things that you can do today that you can work faster. You can get better results. You can get in front of more customers just by embracing what we are now in. So I hope you guys are excited for this. Right now, I'm going to go through my top 3 strategies for your business in 2020. And this is not presented to every single event that I speak at out there. I've spoken with the wonderful team here from Avari. I've talked about what agents are doing. I've worked in the industry. We've worked a lot in the insurance industry. So I'm going to give you stuff that actually works. And in case you're one of those people thinking, you know what, I'm going to wait until things start opening up and business is going to come back to normal. I just want to kind of say something really quickly. Guys, Blockbuster isn't coming back, and neither was your business model. We may have a couple more networking meetings and stuff next year, but let's plan for now. So the first thing I want to talk about today, really, really critical thing, is we need to embrace digital, everything digital. Okay. And I know that your business model have changed. I know that some of you have gone into it begrudgingly. Some of you have loved it and saying, wow, this is actually more convenient. I don't care if you love it or if you hate it, it's here. So embrace it. I've been hearing a lot of people recently saying, well, you know what? I just don't like Zoom meetings. Who the heck has ever liked Zoom meetings? Have you ever liked Zoom meetings? I didn't like Zoom before the pandemic. I'm not enjoying Zoom during the pandemic, and I am not going to like being in Zoom meetings now. Last month, I clocked 221 hours on Zoom. Okay, I hate Zoom. And it's kind of like people saying, like in business of 2019, you know what? I would do business, but I don't really like traffic. Nobody ever likes traffic. Okay, it's the same thing. It's a means to an end. It's a delivery method of your physical body into something else. I get it. I would much rather be doing this conference with the 500 people on this Zoom call in an audience and hopefully hearing you laugh at my terrible jokes, and we can have some coffee afterwards or wine if it's nighttime. Like, I love that, but it's not here. So I have to embrace everything digital. I've got to make sure that even if I hate it, even if I don't know how to use it, I'm just going to do it. Now, one thing I want to talk about specifically in digital, and I'm going to be talking about social media and stuff in a bit in regards to marketing strategies, is, people are talking about delegation, right? And figuring out their tasks and what they're doing. And people are almost feeling busier than they did before the pandemic. And if I can encourage you, don't delegate, automate. Okay, automate things. And I want to show you a couple things that I've personally used to automate in my life that have helped me completely, or not completely, that have helped me grow my business and transform my personal life in sales. First thing is own your calendar. Okay, own your calendar. Now, I'm not into like working like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'm not one of those guys that's all about the hustle and the grind and all that stuff. You may be, I'm not that guy. I've got 4 tiny little kids at home and they need me to wrestle them every single night. And so that's just what it is. But own your calendar. Now, when people are looking at calendar, I'll be very transparent that, our time is worth something, but most of us manage our time quite poorly. And I use an app. This app is called Calendly, which is Calendly, calendly.com. Feel free to Google it. And it allows people to go into my calendar, to choose a day that works for them, to choose a time slot that is available on my calendar that I've opened up public. And as soon as they confirm it, they get sent, the Zoom information and instructions of logging in and all that kind of stuff, just in an automated fashion. This thing it comes as a free tool. There's like paid versions of it. There's lots of other tools out there that allow you to schedule, but this allows you to do more with less time. I don't need a full-time personal assistant booking all of my meetings. And to be honest, in the year 2020, it is easier, not harder. It is easier to schedule more meetings and to do more business and to close more deals. If you're saying this is the hardest year of deals, you're doing it wrong. Okay, because we don't have to go from meeting to meeting. I don't need to do coffee to coffee and traffic an hour and a half and all that stuff. I can go 30 minutes to 30 minutes to 30 minutes. And I'm going to prove it to you. Last week, this is my calendar. I blocked out names for the sake of privacy, but I didn't customize this for you guys at all. This was my calendar last week. And the couple gaps there is where I try to do work, okay? So this is, everything that's just jammed in there. Now, even a personal assistant couldn't do a job like this in regards to lining up every single appointment and coordinating everyone's calendars. And I just go from one thing to the next, guys. How do you go faster? How do you beat your competition? Use the tools that'll get you ahead. One of my favorite movies is The Pursuit of Happiness. And it's Will Smith's story of him as an emerging salesperson, as a stockbroker. And as he was basically building his portfolio, he timed how much he needed to hold his hand on the receiver to have the dial tone to dial out again, if we actually remember that entire process. He didn't drink any water in the day because he was just faster. And he built stuff faster. If we're looking at growing our business, let's just be much more efficient. And this isn't just for personal things. You can actually host this on your website. This is Factory Tile Depot. I was on their website the other day, and they have free virtual design appointments where their salesperson comes over Zoom onto my phone, and I'm showing them the bathroom that I'm looking at retiling. They're looking at it, and as a salesperson, we're talking it through. She's showing me the tiles that we should select based on the different stuff there. And it was like the best experience of my life. I don't have to drive to the store and do all that stuff. This is posted on a website, guys. This is incredible. It is the best year ever to schedule in people. Next thing I want to talk about is CRM tools. If you don't know what CRM stands for, that's okay. Customer Relationship Management. So it's kind of like a contact list, except for it allows you to prioritize deals, understand what your follow-ups are, understand your calendar. You can even, some CRMs allow you to do bookings, and allows you to follow this through. Now, when you're small, you don't need this. You can remember everything, but there's only so much this gray matter can actually remember and schedule. And as you're growing and scaling your business, just become digital. There's tons of softwares out there. I use one called Pipedrive. I know people use Salesforce, they use HubSpot, they use Sugar CRM. There's tons of stuff out there that allows you to kind of get your customers' information in there and complete deals, but automate your follow-up. If you don't do this, you're always gonna hit a limit. You're growing. Next thing I'd recommend is using video. And not just Zoom video, but if you see this video right here, this is actually me doing a screen recording of myself walking through a proposal for a customer, because they didn't have time to meet. So I said, not a problem. I'm going to walk you through this entire thing on screen. This is just a Google Chrome extension. It's free. Like all these things I'm telling you, it's not like you have to sign up for something. This is free. This is from a company called ViewEdit, ViewEdit. Just Google it in your own time. You can click the button. It records yourself and your screen. You go through stuff. And imagine you always think, well, I like to present, in front of customers, or I like to explain different things. Just create a couple of videos. And then, it may be a one-off video where you're connecting one-on-one with person, or it could be like something that you use every single time. If you're constantly having half an hour calls to describe the same things or to go through the same slides, make a video, send it to them. Next thing, find shortcuts. This is one of the funnest things. People sometimes lean over my shoulder and see this one. They don't know what I'm doing. If you're ever finding yourself repeating yourself over and over again, almost like the video thing, just create a shortcut. Every operating system has the ability to auto-complete sentences. So for example, in Apple, right, your iPhone, your Mac, whatever you're using, or Windows has as well too. All I do is type in a couple characters, and then it auto-bases the entire thing with a sentence. So showing this slide again, you'll see here, this is me sending out a text message to book my calendar. So I just quickly type CAL30. That's a code I just came up with, put it in there, and it automatically replaces it with book a time on my calendar by clicking on this link. So next time you're thinking, well, I've just met somebody and we've got to do this, we've got to schedule this, Cal30, send, done, not thinking about booked in, going, and it's going to be in my calendar. Guys, it is the best time to automate your entire workflow. And it doesn't matter if you are a single person or you're in a team. It's really easy to do. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, this is really cool, but I have no idea what Daryl did. How do I do this? Everybody's different, right? Everybody's maybe using different software, different things. There is a website that gives all the answers, okay? Every single answer you can possibly imagine. It was really funny. I took this screenshot about how to make my phone auto-complete sentences, and then it auto-completed my search result about auto-completion. I thought that was kind of strange, a little meta here. And so if you're not sure about something, you don't know how to use something technology-wise, just Google it. It's really, really easy. Watch a couple of YouTube videos and find out how to be more effective. All right, so step one, automate everything. Make sure that you're embracing digital, that you're using these tools. Most of them are free, or they've got freemium versions of themselves, and it can really help you scale your business. When I first started my business, I just automated everything with emails and flags and all that stuff. And so people say, well, how do you grow, your company? How do you just keep doing what you're doing in the volume that you're doing it? Well, it's a whole bunch of little tools that are interconnected. Second thing, we're going to spend most of our time today speaking about this one, and it's social media marketing. Okay, not just being on social media, not just looking at your news feed every day. That's not really marketing. It's not new. This isn't like a strategy where it's well, we're thinking about doing a Facebook page. Well, if it's 2020, you're thinking about a Facebook page, that was really great back in 2010, but no longer, right? And so we now need to think about, what are we going to do with social media marketing that actually generates results? And during the pandemic, it's been really interesting. During the pandemic, we've actually seen that social media has been accessed more by people. And we all know, because why? We have nothing else to do. So Facebook and Instagram, which is one network, by the way, has gone up by 55%. Okay, so people are using Facebook and Instagram 55% more. Snapchat has gone up 50%. LinkedIn has gone up by 25% increase, right? This is from WordStream. And so people are on social media. Now, if you hear all this, you say, wow, that's a lot of eyeballs. That's a big opportunity here. Maybe I should go and get onto social media right away and like start posting and trying to sell universal life policies and all that stuff. Can I give you one quick piece of advice right here? Don't go on social media. Do not do it, okay? Stay off until you have arrived at a plan. Because just going on social media is not going to help your business. You need to create a social strategy, okay? You need to create a social media strategy before you just go on and start posting on social media. And the reason why I say that is because tons of companies, tons of people in sales, advisors, like people that are consultants, everybody's like going on social media, but they don't do anything with it. And the other day, I was going into a kids play place. Okay, so if you think the like the indoor gyms, all that stuff, and as I was going there, right on the door, I'm going to show you the picture that I took of their front door. Their front door said, "Follow us on these social media links." Now, first off, they're not links; these are stickers. You don't give the addresses, so I'm not going to argue semantics, but that's pretty stupid already. So we got follow us on these social media links, and they have Facebook as the first icon. Okay. Are you trying to advertise to my mother? Because like my mom's on Facebook. She's, over 60. And that's like, like Facebook is more of an older person network. I didn't say old person network, don't worry. But like the demographic is a lot older on Facebook than on Instagram. Like if you want to tag me, like go on Instagram, but no, they said Facebook. So you can miss the market there. Second, Twitter. Okay. Looked them up. They didn't even have a Twitter account. Right? Number 3, LinkedIn. Why? Why would I do this? Hold on, honey. Before we get these little rugrats inside, let me pull out my phone and go on LinkedIn, find the CEO of this fine establishment so I can get his quarterly updates about his business success, milking us of everything that we're worth. No, that is not a good strategy. Okay? LinkedIn is an absolutely terrible strategy for kids' play place. Number 4, YouTube. Okay, great. The purpose of this presentation, I quickly went on my YouTube app, looked them up. They had a YouTube channel. Well done. They had 0 videos. How is that supposed to be effective, right? 0 videos. This last one, people always think it means free Wi-Fi. It doesn't. It means really simple syndication. So if we go back 17 slides, jump in that DeLorean, go back to 2002, and you have an RSS reader, this is a very helpful sticker. It's 2020, nobody even knows what this means. So I'm just gonna keep going on. The reason why I'm going through all this stuff is that this is not a social media strategy, okay? This is social media tactic implemented poorly. So if you just said, you know what, Daryl, I do stuff on social, but I've never got anything from it. My question is, what is your strategy? And are you using that effectively? Now I wanna launch a quick poll here. What social network do you use the most? Now I'm realizing that I just said that Facebook was used mostly by older people. And so just because I said that, a lot of you are gonna try to choose something else. Let's just be honest and throw it in there. Which one are you on the most today? I don't care which one you like the most, but which one are you on the most? Which one do you spend the most amount of time on? So we've got Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat. Just in case you don't see the poll, if you just click on your Zoom window, make sure that Zoom is the main thing in your screen. You're going to see the poll pop up. Choose one of those items, just click on them once, and then we are going to be taking a look at the results in about 5 seconds. 4, 3, get your vote in quickly. 2, 1. Perfect. Thank you so much, everybody, for voting. Let's take a quick look at the results. So we've got Facebook at 62%. We've got Instagram 18%, LinkedIn at 16%, Twitter at 3%, Snapchat at 1%. There we have it, right? And so this is a really interesting thing. Thank you so much for launching that poll. So this is really interesting, right? And so you may say, well, if I'm looking for a younger demographic, I'm looking for younger clients, if I'm looking for like people that are just having kids, just buying a house, people that really like haven't thought about insurance yet, but they should start thinking about life insurance, you may need to take a little bit of a pause from Facebook and start dipping into Instagram. Why? Because that's where your market's at. If you're looking for the 20-somethings, even 30-somethings, these people are on Instagram. And I'm going to be talking about more of these networks, but it's not about which network. It's not just like, well, Daryl said Instagram, and so it's Instagram. It's not about that. It's about being at the right network at the right time. So if you are going after business professionals, go on LinkedIn. If you're going after 30-somethings with kids, go on Instagram. If you're going after 60-year-old men and women, even like people that are like retired professionals, you can go on Facebook. These are all great networks, but you want to be at the right network at the right time. Now I'm going to show you a lot of different slides here on a couple of different strategies. But the first strategy I want to show you is my 5-year-old strategy. Okay, well, when she was 5. And my daughter and I have this relationship where every summer I go up to her, I said, Grace, I'm like, you can ask daddy for any amount of money that you want. Okay, I will give it to you, but you have to double it by the end of summer. And Grace said, okay, I'm going to come up with a business, I'm going to figure this out. And I said, okay, great. What are you going to do? She's like, I'm going to sell lemonade on our driveway. I said, fantastic. So what are you going to do to promote it? She's like, Dad, what do you mean promote it? And like, she's 5, right? So I was like, I kind of got that glance from my wife, like, don't completely our 5-year-old with this question, because I'm a marketer. And so I'm just very excited that my 5-year-old asked me what promotion means. So I said, okay, fine. I'm like, close your eyes, Grace. So she closed her eyes. I'm like, how are people going to know what you're selling, where you're selling it, when you're selling it, for how much, and why they should buy it? You got to answer these questions. How are people going to know? She opened up her eyes. She goes, Dad, that's easy. I was like, give it to me. She's like, you invite people over to my birthday on Facebook, right? Because like all of our relatives are on Facebook. I said, yeah. She's like, let's do that. Except for instead of just inviting some people, let's let other people invite anyone that they want. I was like, that's a brilliant idea. She's like, do you have your phone? I was like, of course. So she's like, go pull out your phone. Okay, so I quickly pull out my phone and she just stands there and she's like, hi everybody, I'm Grace. Come to our house tomorrow for a lemonade stand. What time is it, Dad? I'm like, I'm 10 a.m. She's like, okay, come at 10 and it's $1 for some lemonade and click the share button below and invite your friends. Okay, bye. She like walks away. I had tears streaming down my face. I was an absolute mess. My wife commented, you've created a monster. You understand that? I was like, yes, I do. This is amazing. Why? Because she just picked the right medium, right? Where all the people that our friends are on, right? She picked the right message. She picked the right format. She just hit it, and she's 5 and I'm like stupidly like proud of her. And we launched the page and we got it going and we just, quickly just put it out there. Now, I quickly just invited 47 people that know us, love us, trust us, fully come out to this lemonade stand. 5 minutes later, she's like, Dad, let's see how many people are coming now. I was like, Grace, it doesn't work that fast. Oh, okay, 106 people. Apparently it did. It just doubled. A couple minutes later, she's like, refresh it. I was like, okay, we refreshed it. 291. Darn. Okay, so I grabbed Grace's little hand. We quickly ran off to Loblaws to get ourselves some lemonade or lemon juice or whatever. We set up the next day. I apologize for this picture. This was never supposed to be a case study. Just a terrible picture of our little kids just trying desperately to sell lemonade. Our first customers didn't even come for lemonade. It was our local MP, Brad Butt, and our city councilor, Sue McFadden. I am not name dropping here, people. I did not know these people. I don't know how they're invited, but they came with their photographer to get a picture with Grace in her first lemonade stand. After this, the worst possible thing happened. Okay, worst thing that could happen at a lemonade stand. Dad fell mega. I forgot to check the weather. It started raining. Sorry, scratch that. It started pouring. Okay, this is the only picture I have of the entire event, because we had like water rushing down the driveway. I'm making lemonade. My daughter turns to me. I turned to my daughter. I said, Grace, like, this is insane. Like, this is pouring. We've got to go inside. And she said this sentence to me. I remember it to this day. She goes, but Dad, there's a lineup. And I'm like, what? I kind of like look up and around because there was a couple people around. There was a line of 50 people all the way down the sidewalk, standing with umbrellas, waiting for a glass of Grace's cool and refreshing lemonade during a torrential storm. Now, I don't want to pull on your heartstrings. I know we're business people here, so let's get into the math. Now, Grace made $144 in revenue in an hour and a half. Her expenses were $50. Some of these were capital expenses that did go into the next lemonade stand, which is also very successful. That's for the next keynote. But let's just, for the purpose of general accepting accounting principles and accrual. Let's just accrue the entire thing right now. So her net income was $94, and in an hour and a half, if you kind of work that out hourly, it's $62. Weekly, we've got $23.50. Monthly, $9,400. If we had about 20% year-over-year growth, which I think is possible because my daughter is super cute, over 11 years and 9 months, she's a $1 million business. Now, if you think that I'm just lying to you, we actually did the math, so please don't challenge me on numbers. This was $1 million business that she created. Now, all that's really fantastic, and you may be thinking, well, that's really great for Grace and Lemonade, but how am I going to sell, my next policy on social media? Well, let me just give you the quick snapshot of how to do this. Firstly, you develop content. Okay, content. So like Avari, like social share area, that's content. Right? And content is there to create conversation, and conversation creates relationships, and relationships create revenue, right? We sell to people that we have relationships with. It's always been the same, except when we get to social media, people take a look at the content and they try to sell things. So they try to bypass a conversation, they try to bypass a relationship, and they try to go straight to revenue. So it's like, what does that look like? Me going on LinkedIn today, hello everybody, have you checked your life insurance policy? If you only have a whatever rider, that's not gonna make any sense, and you gotta call me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is called online commission breath. It's not good, it's ugly, and it doesn't work. So what does content look like for social media? Well, I did this a couple of years ago for a previous Avari presentation. That is still one of the most relevant things that I've shown other groups, because I put this question up and I got, I think it was something crazy like 87 responses within 2 hours. And I just said very quickly, what scares you about life insurance? Not like, do you have life insurance and what are you paying for life insurance? Or anything. No, what scares you about life insurance? A real question. We have Julia answering, not knowing if you have enough / what you actually have. I literally only got it because it made my car insurance cheaper. I put no thought or time into it. Cheaper car insurance by having life insurance. Sign me up, hashtag, but what do I really have? Does anyone want to talk to Julia? That's a good conversation to get into, right? All right. Sharon, Zach, am I getting duped? Another good conversation to have. Warren, not being named the beneficiary. Very funny, Warren. All right, keep going. Mike Elsey. Having a hard time shopping around. It's hard to get several quotes. When I told my insurer that I wanted to shop around his rates, he told me I couldn't open up a file with a new insurance company because I hadn't completed my file with his, and that it would look like I was trying to avoid something and therefore would get automatically declined. I hope you guys are at your desk right now just shaking your head. Just like, man, that's terrible, right? Guys, I can't make this stuff up. This is real. Brittany Cormier. What's life insurance? All right. And at the end here, we have anyone that needs a good insurance broker, give me a call. Winky face. We shop from all carriers. Blatant salesperson that is just going after it. You think that they're going to get any business off of this? Really? It's not going to happen. It's online commission breath. Don't do it, right? I'm starting the conversation and somebody's trying to take it over. But going back to Brittany Cormier's statement here, she says, what's life insurance? Okay. And so if you're just thinking in all the terms that you're dealing with on a regular basis that people are understanding you, they don't. Because this is Brittany. She's 25 years old. She's a good candidate for life insurance. She should be getting it at her age, but she doesn't even understand what the word life insurance means. Okay. And so for example, sometimes I was talking to my life insurance person and they're like, well, we've got to really get you interested in CI. I was like, okay. Sure, CI. I know exactly what that means. I quickly start Googling it. Do you know what happens when you Google what is CI? Counterinsurgency, correctional industries, Nebraska, clinical instructor or confidential informant. So if you're not selling this, don't use these terms. Also, the word rider. I'm constantly confused with this term, right? If you look up the word rider, they're not going to get what it is. They may think of this. They may think of that. We just don't know. Okay. But we've got to think about who is our customer? How are we servicing them? And let's make stuff really simple so that they can have real conversations about your products. Now, in regards to social media, it's not just about getting out there. It's always about good ideas. Okay. Good ideas. And I'd love to use a big example this year that a lot of us saw. So we saw Tesla release a truck. It kind of looks like a mixture between the Batmobile and a DeLorean. It is certainly a favorite vehicle of mine, and I know a lot of people think that it's ugly, but you know what? What's really interesting is that they didn't launch this truck with the digital strategy. They didn't. They didn't pay any money to anybody, except for they invited a few people. This was their digital strategy. Their digital strategy was people attending something that was interesting. So if you think of like, what do I want to do on social media? My question is to you, are you doing anything interesting? Because if you're not, there's not a lot to talk about. Now, what did Tesla do that was so interesting? Well, they brought the truck out, the big stainless steel, aluminum, whatever truck out on the thing. And they said, this has armor-proof glass. Up until that point, I didn't realize how much armor-proof glass was a thing, but I was like, all right, let's just do this. So they took a huge steel ball and they just whipped it out the window, showing their brand new steel glass. And this is what happened. Here's the throw. And there you have it. It smashed. And not only did that first one smash, but the second window smashed when they tried that as well too. Then overnight, this happened. Everybody was reporting on the smashed window. And I still think that this was the most brilliant campaign ever, because they haven't admitted to it yet. I personally believe that they staged this because the fact, as soon as that window smashed, they got more shares, retweets, posts around the entire world because people were laughing at them. But at the end of the day, all those same people, they saw the truck, they saw that it would have corrected armored glass. For most people, armored glass isn't a real thing, and they saw the price. Within 48 hours, they had 146,000 Cybertruck orders. And see what Elon Musk says here, with no advertising and no paid endorsement. Within 72 hours, they sold 200,000 trucks. Okay, now you may say, well, what is that in comparison to other vehicle? It took Chrysler 5 years to get to 200,000 on their first vehicle. 5 years. They did it in 72 hours. Here's another example of some great social interaction. Tangerine asked on Twitter the other day, what's at the top of your wish list once you retire? Once again, content is supposed to be there to create conversation, relationships, and relationship leads to revenue. They didn't say, Tangerine, what is your RSP rate? What percent are you paying on your mortgage? Or click here to get 1.95% or anything like that, right? So, I quickly answered. I said, I don't want to move so I can still throw family parties. They answered me right away. They said, totally understandable, especially with 4 kids. What did they do here? They creeped my profile, found out like who I was, and responded to me. Content creates conversation. Conversation creates relationships. Now, you may say, well, that's good for the big wide world. What about business people? LinkedIn is one of the most underutilized network out there for B2B lead generation, for business to business lead generation. So if you're looking for lawyers, business owners, doctors, dentists, consultants, accountants, they're on LinkedIn. And when I post stuff, this is a post I did last year. Some of my posts, I'll get 100,000 views, 150,000 views if I have a strategy behind it. Now, how do you do this? I'm going to quickly show you. First off, you want to have a really good profile. Okay. So like actually put time and effort into your profile, upload a picture, upload, your education and what value that you're bringing to people. After you do that, you can start searching for people on LinkedIn. So start searching people by CEO in your area. You can find those people and then you can send them meaningful invitations. Now, don't send them hey, I'd like to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. Like that stuff doesn't work. Send them a meaningful message. It's like something that actually makes sense for them and for you. And then all of a sudden, you're going to have a strategy where you're going to be DMing back and forth with different people. So this one says, hey, Michael, hope you well. Love the work you've done for Seneca over the years, et cetera, would love to get together. All right. After people connect, you can easily slide into their direct messages. And so right here, we've got LinkedIn DMs. And so as people will start connecting with me, I message them right away because they're thinking about me. And then all of a sudden we can move through, this relationship into actually meeting either, once again, going back to Zoom or on the phone, and then it all makes sense. All right, LinkedIn is an incredible resource. I recommend if you're going after people in business that you quickly use it. You don't even need to do LinkedIn Premium. You can do all that stuff for free. Create a profile, find those people, send some invitations. All right. Now, Instagram is getting really, really hot, especially this year. And Instagram has changed a lot, right? We see in the top section there, they've implemented stories. Stories has also implemented a ton of analytics that shows you what's actually working and what's not working in your story. And the most interesting thing that Instagram has done that has kind of like changed the way that social media has worked, that as you're responding people, you don't have to respond publicly anymore, because we've learned with Facebook that it's not always fun responding publicly on a post, especially right, in this season. And so when you respond, it goes directly into their DMs. Their private DMs. Now, right now, the stat that Instagram is giving is that 96% of businesses plan to use stories the next 6 months. And there's 500 million active users, not on Instagram, but on IG stories, like the actual story section. Instagram stories is where your customers are. All right. Feel free to follow me and to follow along to see my strategies and what I do. I'm a real person with a real business, and I've got real followings, and I don't need to be the most popular person out there. I just need to be able to connect with the key people that are interested in my business. Now, in regards to stories, we've got to think differently. We got to think vertical, right? We got to think video, because it's seen more than pictures. We have to think silent. People are not watching videos with sound on, right? 90% of Instagram videos are never played with sound. So you've got to put text there if you're going to be communicating anything. You got to write some stuff. And so, this is just a quick video to show the example of like what you could do with like some vertical video. But we really, really do recommend that if you're not on Instagram stories right now and you're trying to connect with different younger demographics, Instagram stories is certainly the place to be. Now, stories don't happen to you. Stories are planned by you. And so you want to make sure that you actually have a strategy to launch these stories. Whenever you're launching stories or videos, I have got 3 very quick tips in 2020. Number 1, be transparent. It's okay that you're doing a video from home. That's fine. Everybody's from home. We're all from home right now, and that makes sense. But that does not mean that you should do a bad video. You be transparent, but you also want to have good lighting. All right, so you got to make sure light is hitting your face, not like lighting up your ears. You also want to build good relationships, and Avari is going to drop a link in the chat box right now, and you're going to get a copy of this afterwards. But I'd love to do a video of how to create really good videos. Okay, so it's a 5-minute video, and it gives you instructions of even how to go through your phone's settings, even like an iPhone 7, to switch on different things to create really great 1080p videos. Another thing to end off on that is when we're talking about social media, we talk a lot about social, but then a lot of people don't know that there was another online activity that surpassed social media in 2015 and no one noticed. I want to show you a chart. That blue line is social media activity. That orange line is the big 4 messaging apps, so direct messaging. And do you know what those apps are? This is what they are: WhatsApp, Facebook, and Instagram. And so that means that people are connecting back and forth, having discussions, doing all this stuff on these instant messaging platforms. If you're not on them yet, please integrate, please get on it, because you never know when you're talking to the customer where they are. This person could be buying a UL policy. On the other hand, this is you selling the UL policy, right? It's a very different time right now. Now, the last section I want to go through, and we're going to be open up to some Q&A. And so there's a Q&A box at the bottom. If you've got a burning question that you want everybody kind of to hear and we can kind of answer in front of the group here, feel free to put it in that Q&A thing, not in the chat because it can be way too many chats. Throw it in the Q&A. Last year, the most popular gift for little girls was something that I had to get my little girls was this Insta Mini 8. My daughters told me about it. They're like, Dad, you have no idea what this camera does. I was like, tell me. She's like, you can take the picture and then you can pull it out. You don't have to like print it out or anything like that. You pull it out and you just blow on it and it shows a real picture. I was like, yes, that's a Polaroid camera. She's like, no, it's called Insta Mini 8. Yeah, no, I know exactly what this is. And sometimes what's old is new. And the last thing I want to encourage us today, we talked about embracing digital, we talked about embracing social media, but the last thing near and dear to my heart, how I run businesses, how I launch different things, is this one app on your phone that is very underutilized, and it's actually called your phone, your actual phone. And so if you take a look, your smartphone still has the phone feature on it, and it works. And this app really does work. And I'm not being just like condescending here. It's just amazing how many people don't pick up their phone and call somebody. And you say, well, Daryl, you're just talking about DMs. Yes, of course, DMs, and of course, emails, and of course, videos, stuff like that. Those start the conversation, but then call the person. Literally call the person. When I started my business, people were like, how did you get your first customers? I called people until I got people to answer, and then I sold them on the phone. And the reason why I love calling is that phone calls transmit emotion. Emails and DMs transmit information. Emails and phones are great for scheduling meetings, but then nobody's going to close on the life insurance policy just over text. We've got to think about how to not like automate relationships, right? We never, ever, ever want to automate relationships, automate everything else. But if you're talking about somebody's well-being, you're talking about people, about their legacy, please don't just try to talk to them over text messaging. And it's really interesting, the newer generation. So I'm a millennial, I'm kind of like the older end of millennials. I kind of grew up using the phone, but younger millennials didn't. And Gen Z or Gen Z, whatever we want to call them, they don't even know how to use the phone, right? At different workplaces, we now have to train people how to accept phone calls. Even my wife, we joke around all the time, like her phone will start ringing. She just looks at it. I'm like, who is it? She's like, I don't even know. And I'm like, just answer the phone. Like the person's on the other end. It is one of the biggest competitive advantages. If you're brave enough to call people, if you're brave enough just to ask them how they're doing, if you're brave enough to make that emotional connection, it actually works. Last year, I released this book, which Sean quickly mentioned, Pick Up Your Freaking Phone. Because I'm in digital marketing, everybody thinks that it's just about digital. There is digital stuff in there, but a lot of it is just like how to actually start a business, pick up the phone and make some noise. All right, so my encouragement to you is in between those three things, embracing digital, getting on social media and having a strategy, or just pick up your freaking phone. As we pull out the polls, as people throw some Q&As together, what are you going to commit more to in the next 4 weeks? Not a year from now, not 2021, not when the pandemic is over. What are you going to do in the next 4 weeks that is going to push the needle, that is going to grow revenue, that is going to book meetings, and that is going to actually help your customers buy products that they need in this time? Guys, thank you so much for paying attention today. I understand how exhausting Zoom can be, but I'd love to open it up for some question and answers and see what you guys are thinking about. And I'm going to answer as many as we can in these next couple minutes here. And I'm just reading a couple questions here. One big question is, how do you deal with cybersecurity risk associated with social media business accounts? So 2 things, if I can recommend right off the thing. I also know that there's always great privacy policies and stuff that companies have. So even Avari could have some great answers for this one. But 2 things I would answer right away. Number 1, make sure you actually have control. So make sure it's not like a company or somebody else setting up your page, your profile, or anything for you. Make sure you have it, okay? And then the second thing is, make sure you turn on, it's called 2FA, 2-factor authentication, so that it's sending you a text message to like log in or do that type of stuff, or an analytics app. 2FA prevents a lot of fraud from happening within different social media accounts. So Joanne, thank you so much for the first question there. Really do appreciate it. Second question here, and team from Avari, feel free to even I know you've also been active in the chat, so feel free to kind of interrupt me and ask me other questions as we kind of go through these last couple minutes here. We got another question. How much time do you spend on creating original content? And do you recommend automating posts? If you do you have apps you recommend to automate posts? Really, really good question. So I spend time on creating original content. I would say it's almost like working out. Like, what can you commit to? For me, we're in marketing, right? So I actually have I have people, not just myself, but there's other people here that are creating a lot of content. They're actually behind the camera here. They're on the camera over there. They're creating a lot of content all the time. So it's almost not a fair question because I have a marketing agency. But if you were to say, like, Daryl, I'm going to commit 10 minutes a day. That's fantastic. Just make sure it's pointed in one direction. Okay. So make sure you're investing in one network, like invest 10 minutes in like LinkedIn. Don't just use it everywhere else. In regards to scheduling apps, that kind of goes back to like what network that you are spending the most amount of time on. I'm going to quickly ask one of the guys, what is the app that we use to schedule stuff on Instagram the most? Gain? Gain and Creator Studio is what our team uses. And so I'm not always involved in those items, but Gain and Creator Studio is what we use. But there's a lot of stuff out there. There's also Hootsuite platforms that other people have used. There's Later, which is another platform. So you got to find one that you really like using. Great. Other questions here, guys. Thank you. We're getting flooded with questions. They're really, really good questions. Do you use voice messages sent over messaging apps? So at what stage of the contact, what are your tips? Wow. I actually just like calling people. I only use voice messaging only like for a couple friends that actually do that. But I love calling people because when I call somebody, I can get a response right away, and I can like actually find out like objection handling, what's going on, and tailoring my messaging. When you're kind of just sending one long voice message, you're just rambling on like a voicemail. And I hate voicemail, and I kind of feel like that's in the same like camp, and so I don't use that much. But hey, to each his own. I may be wrong there. Other questions here. How do you effectively manage the many conversations that you must generate on social media? One at a time. Spend time with the one person that's in front of you. Don't try to like bulk it or anything like that. Spend time with like that one person in front of you. Just spend time with them. And figure it out. Now, I try to do stuff between meetings. We create a lot of different conversations. Feel free to follow Daryl K. I answer most things, not all things. And if people are, overly soliciting me, I'm not going to like just do that because I just literally don't have time. And then I try to just really stay in the moment. And so it's a combination of sometimes I'm not perfect at it, but I try to do my best to just really focus in when I can. If somebody DMs me right away, and it's like a really good lead, and I'm not doing something, I try to answer them right away. Why? Because they're thinking of me, and so I'm going to think of them, and I'm going to quickly get back to them right away. I got another question. Doug, great question. If producing content is video or written better? Video. It gets more clicks, it gets more interaction. If you can, do video. But it's harder to do video, right? But if you're going to do video, do it right. But you're going to get more interaction. You're going to get more people like taking a look at stuff. It depends what your strategy is, but video always gets a lot more interaction than the written word. We've got 1 minute left here, so I'm just going to pass over to the Avari team to see if we want to take a couple more questions or wrap up here. It's up to you guys.
So just one thing while we have 1 more minute, the poll didn't actually launch. If you want to, we want to try launching that one more time just to see while I ask my question. Daryl, in the last 6-8 months, working from home, having all the time in the world to do work versus family life, if you have to, or if you could, how did you figure out how to make boundaries in your day-to-day work?
Yeah, that's really, really cool. I talked a lot about this in my book about owning your calendar and making sure that you've got barriers. I see life and work as both raging rivers. If you don't put the banks on the river, it just spills over into everything, and then everything is terrible, right? Your family life is terrible, your work is terrible. So I've got strict boundaries. I start working at 8:30. I've got an office set up. I open up my laptop. I start working at 8:30 in the morning, with some exceptions. At 5 o'clock, my laptop closes, my phone goes on my desk, and I walk out of my office. Those are my barriers. Now, they don't always work. Sometimes stuff can spill into things, but just like I don't bring my kid to my meeting, I don't try to bring my work with me in my pocket and look at it all the time. It is one of the hardest disciplines for our generation, not our generation. It's one of the hardest discipline people in 2020 to kind of separate those things. So I know that I'm not strong enough to not look. So I physically just put stuff down, and that's it. That's what's going on. I also customize my devices so that even my watch here, after a certain time, it's only personal calls and text messages that come through. Email, if you're getting dinged for email, you're already dead in the water. Hey, I was really encouraged by these poll results. Over the next 4 weeks, what do you commit to doing more of? 45% is in the lead with all the above. Fantastic, guys. That's a lot, man. We've got 30 people in second place. I love it. Yeah, make the phone calls, right? Like, be bold, call, make a demand on people's time, find out what they're doing, and always get the next meeting, right? That is just awesome. I think making phone calls is such an underutilized sales tactic. I love making phone calls and receiving them all the time. Then we've got social media, 3% at video, 6% digital automation. That's very cool, guys. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I really do appreciate that. I'm really encouraged to see that 45% of you guys, man, you are keener. That is awesome.
Thank you. Okay, and thank you, Daryl. This was a fantastic presentation. I'm very happy that we were able to get this together. That's it for today. We're at 4:01. As you guys know, I try to make sure that we respect everyone's time, so we don't try to go too far over. If this is the type of content that you want us to keep doing, please let us know. Let the sales directors know, because we'll do more of it if that's what you prefer. If you want to hear more from our compliance team, we'll do that as well. But honestly, things like this, Daryl, this is the first time we've done something from you this year, and I think it really hit the mark from my point of view. But please tell us if I'm right, everyone. And and by the way, we had 500 people. We hit 500 people on today, so that's a pretty good number for our weekly webinar.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me, guys.
Okay, so that's about it. And so everyone, as always, we're always doing our best to grow your business. And if you have any ideas for us to do so, please let us know. Otherwise, have a great week, and thank you very much.